Hi everyone, so in this lecture we're going to be talking about the basic architecture and components of Datafusion. Here the idea is for us to understand a little bit the basics of what we have in Datafusion environments and what we have on the back end of Datafusion. We are not going to go very deep in details of cluster optimization, parameterization, and this kind of deep topics. Okay, the idea here is for us to have a basic understanding, and from here later on we can build more knowledge on it because we know what is happening under the hood. Okay, so let's get started then. Well, basically this is what we have in Datafusion as a whole. So we have two main components, which is a Datafusion instance and a Dataproc cluster. Okay, these Datafusion instance talk with the Dataproc cluster through APIs. We're gonna need to enable this API later on when we start our instances. Okay, and here I want to show you the nice part. So Dataproc is a service from Google Cloud that manages the Hadoop infrastructure that you need to run Spark streaming jobs on it. Okay, so basically we are gonna see in this course only the Datafusion instance because we're gonna use the default Dataproc cluster, but I want to let you know that the default Dataproc cluster manages all of this infrastructure for us. Client node, the input and output from client node, the master node, manages the worker node for us, storage layer, management layer, processing layer. All of these is automatically managed by Dataproc for us. This is where Datafusion has a big advantage from using, for example, Databricks or other tools that you need to manage your own infrastructure. And then with this, we get speed to deliver real value data with basically no time. We're gonna see that's something really fast for us to be deploying this, to be using a Datafusion instance without barely touching the Dataproc cluster. Okay, this is the idea. Okay, and then let's talk a bit more of details of those two main components. We have some more, but the idea here is for us just to understand the very basics of it. Okay, and I suggest you checking out this link for more details on it. But we have the two main components, execution environment and Datafusion instance. Starting with the execution environment. As I mentioned, this is a Dataproc cluster. And when we create our Datafusion instance, create pipelines, and we don't do any changes on our pipeline to select a specific cluster, we're gonna use the Dataproc default cluster. So no worries with managing infrastructure. Okay. Other than that, if we want, or in case our company already have some customized Dataproc cluster with some specific configurations, we can be using them in our pipelines instead of using the default one, right? This is for the use case of, for example, we need to set up some specific information in that cluster, some security informations, some sizing, some scaling policies that are different from the default one. We can use our own cluster, right? And one more topic here is the ephemeral concept. Datafusion with Dataproc, we try to use always the concept of ephemeral clusters. If we use in default cluster, we for sure using that. If using custom Dataproc cluster, it depends if your cluster is always on or not. But the ephemeral approach is basically like this. Let's say our cluster is deactivated for saving costs because there is no workload and we don't want to have it on being charged for that. Datafusion will start a pipeline and then the cluster will be turned on, so we'll come live, and then we do the data processing, deliver everything, and then the cluster is shut down. Okay, this is for us to save money, save costs, right? And yeah, we just use it when we need, right? Okay, the second component we're gonna talk is the Datafusion instance that communicates with Dataproc through the API. Datafusion instance is something we're gonna create on the UI of Google Cloud. We're gonna do it later together. And in the Datafusion instance is where all the UI things happen, right? So it's where we create pipelines, it's where we check plugins. So yeah, we use plugins in the pipelines. For example, we can download plugins from third-party vendors or for other community members, right? And then these plugins are basically things like ingest data from Google Cloud Storage from BigQuery, insert into BigQuery, do transformation, do data deduplication, work with JSON files and this kind of things. This is where we create triggers for our pipelines. This is where we create schedules. You can schedule for every day or for every night, for every hour. Yeah, we can have the concepts of namespace inside the same instance. We're gonna create only one instance here for us to test, but inside one instance we can have multiple namespaces, because you can, for example, separate by company area, like sales Datafusion instance, or like warehouse Datafusion instance, or you can also separate by environments. So for example, by dev, staging, prod. Of course, if you want, you can create multiple Datafusion instances within your Google Cloud account, because this is useful because, for example, we have different types of Datafusion instances. We have basic, developer, standard, enterprise, and then we can be choosing different instances for every environment, because they vary prices, they vary reliability also. We're gonna see that later. This is where the UI is hosted, all the UI I showed you in the picture before, and this is where we have the pipeline hub. Okay, so these are the basic concepts that we needed to understand before moving forward with it.